Happy Advent. This is Beyond the Sermon, the podcast of First Methodist Church in Collingswood, New Jersey. On our podcast, the goal is not just to share our sermons, but to go beyond the sermon and talk about what we're learning and what God is doing in us and in our community. The conversation you're about to join was inspired by our 2024 Advent Sermon series, The Fifth Gospel, Isaiah's vision of the good news of Jesus. In this series, we're looking at some of Isaiah's prophecies about the Messiah and their fulfillment in Jesus and what it means for us today. You can find more information about our church at fumccollingswood.org. Thanks for joining us for this conversation.
We're grateful today to be able to sit down with Reverend Dick Esher, who has been a pastor here and in New Jersey for a number of years, and some of the people within this church know him far better than either Jeremy or I do. But Dick preached for us on December 22nd, right before Christmas, and shared with us about Mary. But even more than getting into that sermon, we just want to get to know a little bit of who Dick Esher is and some of the things you've seen God do, and see where that conversation leads us. So Dick, starting off, just tell us a little bit about who you are. What's your background? How'd you end up here at FUMC and all that good stuff?
Well, my background is here. I was born and carried into this church as a little baby. I think probably went from the delivery room to the nursery here, and I've been here really connected ever since then, but grew up in the church, and this is the first place I heard the name Jesus. And it was the first time I heard the claims of Christ and that I needed to do something about that. And I just remember feeling mixed emotions of guilty of what I hadn't been. I remember being sort of too embarrassed to go forward in any service and just say, I've never accepted Jesus, because it was assumed that you were, But I remember my first Sunday school class, and somebody presented the claims of Christ, and I said, I just need to do that. And for the first time in my life, I talked to somebody about Christ, and just said, and I came to a realization. So I didn't pray the prayer with that person, or with one of my Sunday school teachers, but I said, I'll do this tonight. So I prayed by myself. And then some time went by, and I was a sinner again. And I said, what happened here? I must have said something wrong, Yeah. And so I must have blown it. So let me pray again. So I would pray again and again. So at this point, I have accepted Jesus as my Savior 5 times. 2 times officially. One of the first ones with a big crusade that was here with a guy named Leighton Ford, and I went forward in the service, but I was the little guy, and they stuck me over the corner of the parlor, and they talked to all the adults who wanted to know Christ, and nobody ever talked to me about the Lord there.
Is that right?
Yeah. So then I went away to Malaga camp, and Tim Sheets was my counselor, and that nailed it. Remember the sawdust trails, literally at Malaga, you just walked down and played with. And the whole night we were playing with the sawdust in our feet and burying each other and all that kind of stuff. But I remember going forward, and I just said, this is it. I've got to make this decision. And Tim was my counselor and shared with me the assurance of salvation first time in my life. So that's how the whole process began. And I had a really good friend here, Lynn Meeker, and we accepted Christ on the same night. We were both 10 years old, and began that journey together. And I just saw in him so much talent and ability, tremendous trombone player, great academic guy and everything like that. And accepted at Wheaton, went to Wheaton, was going to do ministry. And in his senior year, he got cancer and passed away. And it was really for the first time in my life, I just prayed, God, are you really out there? I mean, are you, this is a mistake, for you to take a guy 17 years old with all kinds of ability who's going to serve you the whole rest of his life and take him away. I just was upset with God. And I think for the first time I really prayed, a serious prayer with God. It wasn't, now I lay me down to sleep, help Lynn. Now it was serious. God, what's going on here? And through that whole thing is where I felt the beginning of the call to ministry. I felt like, well, Lynn's not going to be there, and I don't have his abilities and things like that. But God, if there's anything I can do to serve you, I want to do that. And so it was the beginning of my call to ministry. But growing up in a church, missions was all around us. And I just felt like, Well, I just can't do biblical interpretations, and I can't do other languages and things like that. But if you need a printer on the field, I love to run the printing press at my school.
Okay.
And I learned how to do graphic arts and everything like that. And I had a teacher there who had never taught a course before, but he had taken one. So we would get together the night before, and we would learn what he was going to teach in class the next day.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I became, there all the time. So it was a study hall. I was in graphic arts. And so that became what I was going to do. And I committed, God, if you want me to be a printer any place, I'm willing to do that. And it just didn't seem like it ever fit at that point. So I just decided I was going to go into the military because I didn't want to go to Vietnam. Really, it was a scapegoat. I just didn't want to do that. But I said, I think I'll just go in the military and do that. And they rejected me.
Really?
I was beginning part of my senior year, and I went and I said, I'm prime meat. You can have me,
Yeah.
And I just wanted to do Navy instead of doing front lines Vietnam.
Sure.
And they rejected me and said, come back when you graduate and we'll talk. They don't do that. But it was then during that senior year that God just got a hold of me and said, I can use you. And that's when I began to think about how I could train myself to do that. And my youth director at that time was Perry Downs, and Perry basically said to me, he said, well, we'll get you into college. We'll get you into Bible college. So I applied to Bible colleges. They all rejected me. I had no college prep at all, so we don't want you here. And then he finally said, I found the school that I went to was Miami Bible College in Miami, Florida. And I said, Miami? And he said, they will take anybody who's alive there. And so
that's a ringing endorsement.
Yes, it was. And so I was accepted to go to Miami Bible College, went in on academic probation, and I stayed in that category all the way through, but it connected. And my roommate and I had a good news club with little kids, and it was all girls who were trained on a Monday to go out and do a good news club sometime through the week.
Okay.
And so Paul and I took on doing a good news club, and we had more decisions for Christ in our club. And we had one of the bigger clubs of the whole thing. And Paul now is the Miami-Dade director of Child Evangelism Fellowship.
Oh, yeah.
And so he just continued in that same direction, and we still stay in contact with each other every once in a while. But that's when I began to realize I could do something with kids.
Yeah.
And so that's where that passion started. And then I started working at a Baptist church down in Miami just for 1 year. And then Phil Worth, the pastor here, said, we need a youth director. Would you come? And I wasn't home. So my wife answered, yes, we'll be right there. Truthfully, I was at a bus conference, and she told Phil, yeah, we're coming. And I never had an interview to be a youth director here. And so, oh my goodness, wow. So we packed up and came from Miami and came up here, and just a newly married couple. I was 21, and some of my kids in the youth group are 17, so it was really sort of weird.
Yeah.
But just great.
So you'd only been away from Collingswood for
just for
3 years, right?
4 years.
4 years. Okay.
Yeah, I did 4 years of school, and that last year I was sort of doing half school and half ministry at the Baptist church there.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was it like to come back in that role to the church that you'd grown up in?
It was a mixture. As soon as I got over the whole idea of everybody saying, "Oh, Dickie, it's so good to have you back," I thought, let's get rid of that. As soon as I got rid of Dickie, we started off in ministry together. But it was cool because I knew what was working and what had worked, and I'd seen great people like a Chuck Nichols and Perry Downs, who were just outstanding youth directors. And so they were my school. And they were the ones and my teachers, and I just followed in the pattern. And I was privileged to have Dot Worth sitting across the table from me, and she's just a genius of mind. Oh, just nonstop thinking. And so she walked me through those first years, and then she finally graduated from this office to the one upstairs and started Women Alive. And so I had my own office. She did all her radio broadcasts the whole time she was here for Women Alive, which was just phenomenal, just phenomenal. So, but I mean, to come in and sort of see how the church works and see who the leadership was that you could depend on was just phenomenal, just wonderful. To have my Sunday school teachers be, right there every Sunday, and it was just great, just really great.
Yeah, and then you spent a couple years serving here, right? A couple.
Let me see. Let me take my shoes and socks off here. I figured, I think it's 32.
32
and Phil Worth was mad at me because he was 29, and that was the record that was going to end off. And I remember he called me from Lancaster at Willow Valley. He said, "You broke my record. I'm not happy about this at all." And then it just worked, But it was interesting. So I was, first of all, a custodian here because I had a summer off, and I came and worked as a custodian who also handed flyers out in the community for Vacation Bible School.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And then I went from that and was asked to be the youth director. I was a youth director for all those years, and they said, "We want you to get a real job. We want you to become the associate pastor." Boy, did I get suckered into that. That was...
I think Jeremy can relate to that a little bit.
Oh, my gosh. I just, what have I done? And I'm watching everybody having fun working with kids, and I'm doing stats and stuff like that. And I said, "Oh, this is crazy." But I was loving doing visitation of people in hospitals and shut-ins and all those kind of things, again, because they were my Sunday school teachers, and I just enjoyed those times with them. So that was just a great time. And then Pastor Jack Hamilton passed away, and so they said, "Could you sort of carry everything for 6 months?" And it's impossible, just can't do it because it's such an incredible job. But the lay people of this church stepped up. And they did the things that I knew I couldn't do. It was the Stan Schaefer's and the Bill Biddles and others like that who took the administrative lead of everything that needed to be done in the church to keep it going. And I preached on Sunday mornings with the help of other people and resources of everything that was just... And it was a good time for the church. It was a good growing time for me that stretched me more than I'd ever been stretched before and brought me to a place of greater dependency upon God, because I was doing youth ministry. Piece of work. I'm a piece of cake. Piece of cake. I've been doing it for 30 years. I mean, how could I mess up at this point? So I just continued in the patterns, and every once in a while, I'd just look for something creative that came across, and all of a sudden, I'd stumble across it. It would be successful. And I loved the Cager ministry, which was, I was reaching out to probably 60 to 70 guys and girls every week. I did more basketball reffing. My brain is still blowing whistles. It was their first connection to the church. And they came in and we shared a devotion between. I had some good people, staff who shared devotions along, and that's where guys got the idea who Jesus was. And didn't mean that they left from there and went right to Sunday school. It didn't happen. We had a midweek program that was really just focused more on first step in their Christian experience, and that was helpful in that. First base was something that was open pretty much 2 days a week at least, where kids could come there after school, use the gym, use first base, and it became a place where kids became comfortable. I can tell you a crazy story. My new neighbor over here in Oak Lynn, I'm raking leaves when I first got there, and I'm trying to meet all my neighbors. I'm trying to meet them through their dogs.
Okay,
so milk bone dog biscuits and all that. What's your dog's name? And they would ask me who I was and how long I'd been here, and I said, so anyhow, the guy next door, I'm raking the leaves. He goes, "Who are you?" And I said, I recognize you from someplace. And I said, "I don't know, I've been in the area for, 40 years in different capacities and things like that." And he goes, and I said, "I was a youth director of Congress of Methodist." He said, "Did they have a thing called first base?" And I said, "Yeah, they did." He said, "I went there, but what I got to tell you about it was cool." He went there and we had a program which was called Fifth Quarter. So after the Collingswood football games, kids come back to the church and we'd have soft pretzels, and we'd have the gym was open and first base was open, and the place was, we had a movie or something like that. No, we had we had the highlights of the football game being played back in the parlor, so kids could watch the game and watch themselves. It's just a great happening place. Well, this guy shows up. Man, long story I'm making, but this guy shows up. And he felt guilty being here because he's Catholic. He said, I'm not allowed to go in there, So he went in and he got to play a game of pool, and he goes, this place is great. This is really neat. And so he played pool, and then he was just about ready to leave because he felt so guilty being there. And one of our leaders came up to him and said, what's your name? And he said, oh, man, my name's David. And he said, I'm scared to be here. And he goes, what do you mean? She said, what do you mean you're scared to be here? I said, well, I'm Roman Catholic, and we're not even supposed to be in the building. And she goes, you are exactly where God wants you to be tonight. And he said, changed my life. Changed my life. He said, if I ever went back to another church right now, I'm going to go back to a Methodist church. And I said, well, be more concerned about what's happening inside than what the sign says outside, because that can really trip you up.
Sure.
But make sure you know what's going on inside, and make sure that the Bible is key to whatever is happening inside the building.
Yeah.
So hopefully Dave will be here Sunday morning. So that we'll need. And my upstairs neighbor, he's going to come Sundays morning too. So that'd be cool. And then also to get kids involved in service and service here, but different missions opportunities which you're doing, Jeremy. And it's so neat. Keep that up. It's I'll never forget those trips. I'll never forget the trips and the concepts learned along the way. It's just so important, So
appreciate it. Because I know nothing about the youth ministry at that time and what it looked like. I haven't heard any of these stories before, and it's interesting because people talk a lot about what adult church was like, and I've picked up some things from reading the quilt out there of what used to happen here. But now to hear it so vividly is really, really fascinating to me. Yeah. And so since you've seen this church through countless seasons and countless changes and things, I'm curious, what are you excited about with our church now and this season, now that you're back with us?
Well, it's an interesting time, and I'm, just trying to think of ways to cross-culture two worlds here. I have my old world, and it's very easy to walk in here and just go right to the same people that I was doing youth group with, kids who were people who were same age as I am, kids that I am 75 years old. But the same ones who are here. And it's easy just to connect that and miss others. And so I'm making a determination in my mind that I'm going to meet somebody new every Sunday that I haven't had a chance to get to meet. And so a couple weeks ago was the Plots Sunday. I did not know them at all. I was so impressed with Father Plotz. George. In Sunday school class. Man, what a voice and what a reading ability. I like to steal some of that from him, but I just want to hang around a guy like that. It's really cool. And then I met his kids and heard about a wedding, and I met the couple that just got married. And I said, you don't know me, but I'm just this old guy that wants to meet you and find out what's going on in your life. So that's become a goal to try and, with myself, bring two worlds together and allow that younger generations to meet an older generation and not be intimidated by them, but just to say, wow, how did you get through this part of your life? We're a brand new couple. How do I do this? And how do I make this go? And to me, boy, if we could blend those two together, and I don't know how to do that exactly.
Me neither, but I've been asking people here to do it for the last 3.5 years.
Sure.
So
yeah, that's right.
I'm glad you're doing it.
That's right.
I think the way you're doing it is exceptional, and it starts with just one, right? You said it might not be much, but you're doing it more than we had going prior to you being here because you're being intentional with it and taking that time. And so I would hope that the listeners would also hear of this example. And if they don't already have, doesn't necessarily need to be systemized, but at least make that a goal for our congregation, and knowing that it starts with one conversation with someone that you don't know
absolutely
yet within the church. And you never know how God's going to be able to use that connection, that unity, that relationship to further the kingdom in ways that wouldn't have happened if you didn't know them.
Yeah, let me throw one last thing out. Yeah. The whole idea of blending ideas from the past and ideas from the future. I mean, as wonderful as it has been here, we never did a food pantry. Just go into Fellowship House and we'll send a check along. You guys are doing it here, and congrats on that. That is just so neat, and the people who are doing it are passionate about it, and that's exciting, and that's again a little bit cross.
Generational.
Yeah, generational. There's the word. Yeah. And so to me, that's really neat. But to look for ways that they can do ministries together and continue some things that are in the past, but have a vision for the future of who you are right now and how you can reach the community. And it's good stuff. It's good stuff. So.
Well, before you end, while you have both of us sitting here, we always ask if our interviewees have any questions for us. And so, do you?
Don't hold back.
Oh, man.
Do not hold back, because I know that you have much deeper and different insight than others that we've interviewed. And so...
No.
We're open books, and if we're not, we'll just delete it off the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, man. Don't know what the questions are. I really don't. I saw that before, and I said, I don't know what questions I would be asking, or worthy of asking.
Okay. Well, then, when you were in a similar season in ministry as us, what question do you wish someone had asked you to maybe provoke your ministry into a better direction?
Wow, how about that? Church has always been very, very educated in the things of the Word of God, which is really important.
It is.
But you say, open to the book of Habakkuk on Sunday morning, you go, is that a new kind of cigarette, or what is Habakkuk? Have no idea.
Yeah.
And so somehow, wow, and almost an impossible job for you to say, I've got to talk to the guy that's been here for 75 years, and I got to talk to the person who just cruised in here and doesn't know any of the disciples' names.
Yeah.
And you got to do that every Sunday morning. That's really rough. That's really, really hard. So one of the things that I did and felt was really important was for us to give some basics someplace on Sunday morning. Sunday morning, I'm going to do that stupid thing called sticks.
Yeah.
And but it's a visual. And you do visuals, and that's really important because there's visual learners in here. Let me tell you, my last Sunday here, I'm leaving the back door, and this guy walked up, and he did the sound, named Ryan Ostro, and just sort of checked out a youth group.
Related to Eric?
Yes, exactly. It's Eric's brother, who was the little-known brother, who just was a heady guy, and he loved all the turning the knobs and all that stuff. But Ryan, I just felt like he never caught it. He never caught what was going on, where Eric was gangbusters on everything that was going on spiritually.
Yeah.
So I'm walking out, and Ryan walked up. He said, "Thanks for being my youth pastor." I said, "Oh, Ryan, that's so neat of you to say." He said, "I'll never forget your visuals." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "The artichoke, the apples," and he started going through a whole list of visuals that I had done on a Sunday morning. I brought a bike in, and it was sitting there. It looked all great and shiny and everything, but as soon as I picked it up, all the wheels fell off. I said, because it's missing this nut and this nut. And without those two nuts, that thing's just not going to work, and you might be the nut. And Ryan said, I'm the nut. I'm the nut that needs to find a place where I can do something. Eric's got his thing, but I can't find some place. I need to be the nut on that bicycle. And he found that sound booth over there and just connected. And it was really great. So, but anyhow, I learned from that the importance of the visual. And so I'm always going to, in fact, I was asked, probably, no, I wasn't asked. If it's on, and you can cut it off, you could. But I was asked to fill in one time at the church in the Poconos. And he was going to be away, and he said, we're trying to do this thing called Family Sunday, where the kids wouldn't go off to church time, and the kids were running all over the place, but everybody's going to stay together. And so he made a feeble attempt at trying to muse the kids during his time. It was awful. And I'm dying the whole time. I said, come on, talk to the kids. Talk to them, for crying out loud. And so he asked me to fill in on a Sunday morning. He said, but I wanted something. He said, it's got to be something that's got to be for the whole family. I said, you could be asking for trouble. And so from there on out, I just planned the whole service as a visual service. And I did a very, very kiddie message, which was very visual. You're going on this Christian journey. What do you need to carry in your suitcase? And I put a suitcase out there and pulling stuff out that were all symbolic of things that we need to have in our Christian life. And they connected with that. And so then afterwards, I did a very visual sermon as well, but I knew kids could connect to it and the adults as well. And afterwards, they never asked me to come back. And I think somebody said, oh, he wasn't biblical enough, or he didn't do heady enough stuff for us. But there were a lot of people that had some, I could see in their eyes it was working.
Sure.
It was working. So, and I'm not saying I did anything right there, but he started with the idea. He just didn't know how to do it. And even his children's times were, he just said, well, when you leave, we're going to talk about pause to trip to Jabip. And so leave. So it was, we'll pray for you and we'll give high fives. And I said, oh man, come on. This is too good an opportunity. Just give one thought that the kids can take along with them, some visual thing or something that can connect to the guy, the older adult back there who knows nothing, but maybe what from the kids' message he could have gotten something, and it was sort of a shame, so how do I get on these tears? I'm sorry.
No, I'm just wondering if in the Dead Sea Scrolls they ever found the letter Paul sent to Jabip.
First church in Jabip.
Yeah, that's where I would. No, it's.
Oh man. So,
well, Dick, thanks so much.
Oh man, this has been a pleasure.
Time.
I'm just sorry that I bent your ear this long.
No.
That's why you're here.
Yeah, that's why we wanted you to come. And I'd love maybe sometime we'll get you back and have some more pointed questions for you, let you share some more about from your experiences of ministry and leadership here and in other places. And I can guarantee you that. Won't be like that other church. You'll be invited back to the pulpit again.
Well, you'll see after Sunday morning. We'll see.